It's strange, the moments your brain decides to hold on to, the ones that feel like they get tattooed on the inside of your skull. For me, it's that flicker of blue and pink neon reflecting off her hair. That's the image that still wakes me up sometimes, like I'm drowning in it. Her smile, the one I thought belonged only to me, aimed at someone else under the pulsing lights of that crowded bar. I didn't know then how much that night would unravel my life, but deep down, maybe I felt it in my chest. In that hollow ache that told me something wasn't right. My name's Daniel Harris. Born and raised in Baltimore, Maryland. I'm 34 now, but when this story started, I had just turned 28. It was July 2019, the kind of summer that feels sticky and loud, where every block smells like Old Bay seasoning, beer, and car exhaust. I lived in a small apartment near Fells Point with my girlfriend, Sarah Mitchell. She was 26 back then, 2 years younger than me, and the kind of person who walked into a room and made it brighter just by existing. At least, that's what I used to think. We'd been together for almost 4 years at that point, and I genuinely believed she was my person. I'd met her in 2015 at a friend's birthday party down in D.C. I remember she wore this mustard jello dress that shouldn't have worked but somehow did. Her brown hair tumbling over her shoulders in loose waves. She had this way of locking eyes with you like you were the only person that mattered. That night, we ended up sitting on a rooftop until 2 in the morning, talking about everything from our favorite childhood, cartoons, to how messed up student loans were. Sarah was working as a nurse at Johns Hopkins, always pulling crazy shifts, always exhausted but never too tired to laugh. She had this soft laugh, almost like a secret, and I used to chase it like an addict. I worked in IT at a mid-sized firm downtown. Not glamorous, but stable, and I thought stability mattered. I thought it was something you could build a life on by 2019. We'd fallen into that comfortable rhythm couples do. Saturday mornings at the farmer's market by the Inner Harbor. Netflix marathons on rainy nights. Talking about maybe getting a dog someday when our schedules weren't so chaotic. We had our little fights, sure about laundry, or her habit of leaving coffee cups everywhere but nothing that felt like cracks. At least, I didn't think so. The night that burned itself into my memory started off so ordinary, it's almost insulting. It was a Thursday, July 11th, 2019. I remember because I'd just finished this huge project at work, and my boss had treated the whole team to lunch at this overpriced steakhouse. I got home early, feeling light for the first time in weeks. Sarah was getting ready, makeup scattered across the bathroom counter, music playing low from her phone. Ariana Grande, I think? She looked good. Torrid dress, black heels, hair curled. She said it was just a girls' night out. Some of her nursing friends had been planning it for weeks. I didn't think twice. I mean, I trusted her. She kissed me goodbye, told me not to wait up. If I'm being honest, a small part of me felt relieved. I was exhausted, and the idea of ordering a pizza, cracking open a beer, and watching the Orioles game alone sounded perfect. I didn't even register the way she avoided eye contact as she grabbed her purse. The night passed in that lazy, content blur. Beer, baseball, greasy food. Around 11 p.m., I was half dozing on the couch when my buddy Mark texted me. He'd been out near Power Plant Live, a big bar and club area downtown, and he swore he'd just seen Sarah. I remember frowning at my phone, rereading the message. He said she wasn't with the group of girls I thought she was with. He said she was dancing. With a guy at first, I laughed it off. Mark was a joker, always stirring shit. But then he sent me a blurry picture. And even though it was grainy, and the lights were wild pink blue, purple, I knew it was her. The dress, the hair, the way she threw her head back when she laughed. And next to her, some guy's hands on her waist. That was the moment. The first crack. My stomach dropped so hard it felt like I'd swallowed a stone. I sat there, staring at the photo, my brain refusing to connect the dots. She'd said girls' night. She'd kissed me goodbye. I should have confronted her right then. Or maybe driven down there, found her, demanded answers. But instead I froze. I just sat there on that couch, with the Orioles losing miserably in the background, staring at my phone until the screen dimmed. My thoughts were this tangled mess. Maybe it was innocent. Maybe he was just a friend. Maybe Mark misunderstood. I clung to those excuses like lifelines. When she came home around 2 a.m., smelling like perfume and vodka, I pretended to be asleep. I could hear her humming softly as she slipped off her heels, the zipper of her dress, the creak of the bathroom door. My chest felt tight, like I couldn't breathe. I kept my eyes shut, but inside, everything was screaming. The next morning, she made pancakes. She laughed about one of her friends spilling a drink. She kissed me before heading to her shift. And the whole time, I smiled and nodded like nothing was wrong. But something had shifted. I could feel it, like the floor under my feet wasn't solid anymore. In the days that followed, I kept replaying that picture in my head. The neon lights, the way her body curved into his. The fact that she'd lied to me so easily. I tried to bury it, to convince myself it didn't mean what I thought it meant. But once suspicion moves in, it doesn't leave quietly. It gnaws at you, whispers in the dark, turns every late shift and unanswered text into proof. Looking back, maybe I should have ended it right then. But love makes you blind, makes you desperate to believe in the version of reality you've built. It's not the one unraveling in front of you, and I wasn't ready to let go. Not yet. That night under the neon lights was just the beginning. I used to think betrayal was a single moment. One clean slice, a sharp pain you could pinpoint, like the second a glass slips from your hand and shatters on the floor. But the truth is, betrayal comes in layers. It builds slowly, stacking on top of itself until the weight is too much to ignore. That night under the neon lights was the first crack, but the breaking point came weeks later, when all the doubts and whispers in my head finally lined up into something undeniable. After that blurry picture from Mark, things between Sarah and me became different, not in obvious screaming ways. More like a subtle shift in gravity. The way her phone seemed glued to her hand. The way she smiled at nothing when she scrolled. The way she suddenly cared more about nights out with the girls. I noticed it all. But every time I thought about asking her directly, my throat closed up. I was terrified of the answer. Baltimore in late July is suffocating. The kind of heat that clings to your skin makes the city feel restless and mean. I remember sitting on our balcony one sticky night, cicadas buzzing like static in the background, a natty bow sweating in my hand and feeling this ache in my chest. I kept thinking about all the years we'd built together, holidays at her parents' place in Virginia, road trips down to Ocean City, the plans we'd made for some day. Was it all just nothing? Was I stupid for believing? I tried to shake it off, tried to be normal. I took her to a concert at Merriweather Post Pavilion, The Killers, one of her favorite bands. She sang along to Mr. Brightside, shouting the lyrics into the summer night, and I thought, maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe she really is just stressed, blowing off steam. For a few hours, I let myself believe it. But that tiny voice in my gut wouldn't shut up. The breaking point came in August. August 16th, 2019. I remember the date because it was the night of my buddy Matt's birthday. We all went out to a dive bar in Canton, the kind with sticky floors and darts that never hit the board straight. Sarah said she couldn't come, she had a late shift, back-to-back patients. I didn't argue. By then, I'd gotten used to her excuses. Around midnight, half drunk and sweaty from around a pool, I stepped outside for some air. That's when I saw her. Not in the flesh, no. Worse than that. I saw her face glowing up at me from a stranger's phone. This random guy, some acquaintance of a friend, was scrolling through Instagram, showing off pictures from his night at Mosaic, a trendy nightclub downtown, and there she was, Sarah. Same red dress I'd seen weeks before. Hair curled, smile wide. But this time the photo was clearer. And there was no mistaking the man beside her. Tall, sharp jaw, arms slung around her shoulders like it belonged there. His face pressed close to hers, both of them glowing under the neon pink and blue of the club. It felt like my lungs collapsed. I remember gripping the metal railing outside the bar, the coolness biting my palms just to stay upright. My friends were laughing, talking, but their voices sounded far away, muffled like I was underwater. The guy kept scrolling, oblivious. But that one image was burned into me. When I stumbled home that night, the city lights spinning past my windshield. My mind was a war zone. I kept thinking about how she'd kissed me goodbye hours earlier, smelling like her vanilla lotion, telling me not to stay out too late. And then she'd gone to him. I didn't sleep. I sat in the dark living room, staring at the wall. Every sound amplified, the hum of the fridge, the tick of the clock, the distant sirens outside. Around 3 a.m., the front door creaked open. Sarah slipped in quietly, heels dangling from her hand. She froze when she saw me awake. She asked why I was up. I mumbled something about not feeling well. I didn't tell her I'd seen the photo. Not yet. Cowardice. Maybe. Or strategy. Part of me wanted to catch her in the lie. The next few days, I became someone I didn't recognize. I started checking her phone when she showered, scanning her texts and Instagram DMs. Most of it was locked down, but once I caught a name, Ryan. That was him. The guy from the photo. I dug deeper, piecing together fragments like some deranged detective. Late-night messages, half-deleted threads, vague captions on her Instagram stories. She thought she was being clever, but I saw enough. I can't describe the cocktail of emotions that ran through me. Rage, sure. But also this deep gnawing humiliation. Like the whole world could see what I couldn't. Like I was the punchline in some cruel joke. I thought about calling her out right then, throwing her stuff onto the street, walking away. But love-stupid, stubborn love kept me tethered. I needed proof. I needed her to admit it, so I did something I never thought I'd do. I followed her. It was August 23rd, a Friday night. She'd told me she was grabbing drinks with her nursing friends again. I nodded, kissed her cheek, and watched her walk out the door in that same damn red dress. Then I grabbed my keys and trailed her car through the humid Baltimore night. My heart pounding harder with every turn. She drove downtown, parked near Power Plant Live, and disappeared into Mosaic. I sat in my car for 20 minutes, sweating through my shirt before I couldn't take it anymore. I walked in, the bass vibrating through the floor, neon lights strobing across sweaty faces. And there she was, right in the middle of the crowd, dancing, laughing, his hands on her waist, his lips brushing her ear. It wasn't just a fling. It wasn't innocent. It was betrayal, raw and undeniable, playing out under neon lights for anyone to see. I don't remember leaving. I just remember the night air hitting my face like a slap. The smell of cigarettes and fried food from the street vendors mixing in my stomach until I thought I'd throw up. I drove aimlessly for hours, through streets I'd known my whole life. But they felt different now. Colder. When I finally came home, the apartment felt haunted. Every photo on the wall mocked me. Every coffee mug in the sink reminded me of mornings we'd shared that suddenly felt like lies. That was the breaking point. That was the night I knew the life I thought I had was over. When people talk about heartbreak, they usually picture crying into a pillow, lasting sad songs, maybe eating ice cream straight from the tub. And sure, I had those moments. But the real fallout wasn't dramatic like that. It was slower, heavier. It was the silence between heartbeats, the hollow echo in rooms that used to feel alive. It was me moving through the world like I'd been split in half. The morning after, I saw Sarah with Ryan at Mosaic. Everything felt surreal. She came home around 10 a.m., claiming she'd crashed at her friend Amanda's place because she didn't. "Want to wake me up?" She said it with such casual ease, flipping her keys onto the counter, humming as she made coffee. And I just stared at her, studying every flicker of her expression, wondering how someone could lie so beautifully. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I played along, nodding, forcing smiles. But inside I was rotting. Every time she touched me, every time she laughed, I felt sick. It was like living with a ghost, except the ghost was flesh and blood and still sleeping beside me at night. My work life started to unravel first. I'd always been reliable at my IT firm, never late, always on top of my projects. But now, I'd sit at my desk staring at lines of code, my brain replaying that image of her dancing under neon lights. I missed deadlines. My boss, a guy named Collins, who wore the same 3 button-down shirts on rotation, pulled me aside one morning and asked if everything was okay. I lied, of course. Said I was just tired. My friends noticed too. Mark and Matt invited me out for beers, trying to drag me back into normalcy, but I kept dodging their calls. I couldn't handle the noise of their laughter, the weight of their questions. I didn't want to be the guy everyone pitied. The guy who got cheated on nights were the worst. I'd lie awake, Sarah slow breathing beside me, and feel like I was suffocating. Sometimes I'd slip out onto the balcony, just to gulp down the humid Baltimore air. I'd watch the city lights flicker, listen to the distant hum of cars, and wonder how many other people were awake, drowning in secrets they couldn't say out loud. I started drinking more. It wasn't a conscious decision, it just happened. A couple of beers after work turned into whiskey straight from the bottle at 2 a.m., anything to dull the ache. To quiet the voice in my head screaming that I wasn't enough. The thing about betrayal is it messes with your sense of self. It's not just that she lied. It's that every memory you shared gets rewritten. That weekend in Ocean City when she said she loved me under the fireworks, was it real? That time she nursed me through the flu, making soup and rubbing my back, was it love or just habit? My past, my present, my future, it all felt like quicksand. Pulling me under. By September, the tension was unbearable. I couldn't keep pretending. One night, Sarah left her phone on the coffee table while she showered. The screen lit up with a message from Ryan. I didn't even hesitate. I opened it. It wasn't explicit, but it didn't need to be. Little hearts, inside jokes, a plan to meet up again. Proof. Cold, hard proof. My chest went numb. I put the phone back exactly how I found it, then sat there on the couch, staring at the dark TV screen. When she came out of the bathroom, hair damp, smelling of lavender shampoo, I couldn't look at her. I mumbled something about being tired and went to bed early. The confrontation came a week later. On September 14th, I'd been building up to it, rehearsing in my head, but when the moment arrived, it wasn't some big speech. It was clumsy, raw. She said she was going to another girl's night. I just blurted out, I know about Ryan. For a split second, her face went blank. Then she laughed. Actually laughed. She tried to brush it off, said I was paranoid, that Ryan was just a friend, but her eyes betrayed her. I'd loved those eyes for years, memorized every shade of brown, and I could see the lie swimming there. I pressed harder. Told her I'd seen the photos, that I'd been there. Her laugh died. She went quiet, lips trembling just slightly. Then, finally, she admitted it. Not with tears or apologies, but with this cold shrug, like it wasn't a big deal. Like it was just something that happened. I don't even remember what I said after that. My ears rang. My vision blurred. All I know is I grabbed my keys and walked out, slamming the door so hard the frame shook. I ended up at Matt's place, half drunk, crying in his spare room like a kid. He tried to comfort me. Said things like, "She's not worth it, and you deserve better," but none of it landed. I didn't want better. I wanted the life I thought I had back. The weeks that followed were hell. Sarah moved out, taking half our stuff with her. She didn't fight, didn't beg, didn't even seem heartbroken. That hurt more than anything. It was like I'd been erased from her life in an instant. For years gone, just like that, I spiraled. Skipped work. Ignored calls from my family. My mom left me voicemails, her voice tight with worry, reminding me to eat, to sleep, to take care of myself. But I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that red dress under neon lights. By October, I was barely functioning. I'd lost weight. My apartment smelled like stale beer and takeout containers. I avoided mirrors because I didn't recognize the man staring back. The fallout wasn't just losing Sarah, it was losing myself, and I didn't know how to get back. There's a strange clarity that comes from hitting rock bottom. It's not the dramatic, cinematic I found myself in a cabin in the woods kind of clarity. No, it's quieter. More like the world finally stops spinning for just a second, and you can see the cracks you've been ignoring all along. That's when I realized I couldn't keep drowning in bitterness, in sleepless nights, in whiskey bottles. Something had to change. I had to reclaim something. My life, my dignity, maybe even my heart. It started small. I threw out the bottles. One by one, I dragged them to the trash, feeling each clink against my palms like the snapping of chains. Then, I started cleaning the apartment. Every corner, every shelf, every counter. It wasn't just about cleanliness, it was about taking control over something. Anything. The smell of bleach, the clang of dishes, even the hum of the vacuum felt grounding. For the first time in months, I felt like I was reclaiming a piece of myself. I went back to work slowly, apologizing to my boss, explaining that I'd had a personal crisis. Collins gave me a skeptical look, but I didn't care. It felt good to sit at my desk again, to touch the keyboard and feel the hum of normalcy under my fingers. The emails and meetings and tickets were small victories, but victories nonetheless. I also started reaching out to friends. Mark and Matt, of course, but I dug deeper, reconnecting with people I'd drifted from over the years. There was Lisa from college, who had always been brutally honest but kind. She listened when I spilled the story of Sarah and Ryan, never judging, never sugarcoating, just listening, letting me scream, cry, and laugh at the absurdity of it all. Having someone witness your pain without making it about them is rare and healing. But I knew I wasn't done. The sense of betrayal was still raw. It burned like acid in my chest. And maybe, somewhere deep down, part of me wanted something that wasn't just closure. I wanted accountability. I wanted to make her realize, really feel what she had done. Not in a petty, vindictive way, but in a way that forced the truth into the open. I started gathering evidence. Not obsessively well, maybe a little but methodically. Old texts, social media posts, Instagram stories. I wanted the story to exist in black and white, undeniable and permanent, not just in the blurry haze of memory. I didn't plan to post it online. That wasn't the point. The point was clarity. Proof that what I felt, what I had lived through, was real, and then. A plan formed not revenge in the classic sense, but a way to reclaim my own narrative. I signed up for therapy. It felt awkward at first, admitting I needed help. But the first session with Dr. Patel, a nonsense woman with sharp eyes and a soft voice, was a revelation. She helped me untangle the shame from the heartbreak, the anger from the loss, the grief from the betrayal. Slowly, I started to see that Sarah's choices weren't a reflection of my worth. They were hers. And though that didn't make the pain disappear, it made it manageable. Around this time, October 2019, I also started running. Just laps around Patterson Park at first, the air cold and biting, the sound of my own breath loud in my ears. The rhythm of my feet hitting the pavement became meditative. Pain turned into something productive. Anger became fuel. Every mile felt like reclaiming a little piece of myself. I didn't go out looking for Sarah or Ryan. I didn't need to. Instead, I focused on building my life in a way that didn't require them. But sometimes late at night, I'd scroll through social media. I saw glimpses of her laughing at brunch with friends, traveling, smiling in photos that had once been mine. And instead of crushing me, it became motivation. Not to compete, not to spite, but to grow, to thrive. To show that my story didn't end with her betrayal. By December, I'd made significant changes. I switched to a new apartment, a small loft in Fells Point with high ceilings and brick walls. I redecorated it myself, filling it with things I love: books, records, plants. The city lights through the tall windows at night felt like a promise. Life goes on, so would I. The turning point, the true reclaiming, came in an unexpected form. One Saturday in January 2020, I was volunteering at a local animal shelter, walking dogs in the bitter winter air. There was this old golden retriever, Max, who was skittish at first but warmed up to me after a few minutes. As we walked through the snowy streets, I felt this profound sense of purpose. Not just survival, not just distraction, but something bigger than myself. I realized I could still care, still love, still feel deeply without being consumed by someone else's lies. And then came the confrontation, not with her, not with Ryan, but with myself. I sat down one night, journal in hand, and wrote everything I'd felt, everything I'd endured. Every moment of doubt, betrayal, and sorrow. I didn't hold back. I wrote until my hand cramped and the pages overflowed with raw, unfiltered emotion. And when I finally read it back, I realized something. I was still standing. I was still breathing. And I wasn't broken. That's when I understood the truth of it all. Healing isn't about forgetting. It isn't about revenge or anger. It's about reclaiming your life, your dignity, your story. Sarah's betrayal was a chapter, painful and unforgettable, but it didn't have to be the whole book. I could write the rest of it. And for the first time in months, I felt like the author again. By spring 2020, I had a rhythm. Therapy twice a week, running 3 times a week, social life slowly rebuilding, work becoming fulfilling again. Even dating, tentative, cautious, but exciting. The world didn't suddenly feel safe, and my heart didn't magically heal overnight. But I had tools, strategies, and a renewed sense of self that no one could take from me. And somewhere in the back of my mind, under the layers of pain and recovery, I could finally laugh at the absurdity of it. I had been blindsided by love, humiliated in the neon glow of a club, left reeling in the aftermath, but I had survived. Not just survived, actually, thrived. And that realization, that quiet, steady knowledge of my own resilience, felt like the ultimate victory. I didn't need Sarah to see it, to acknowledge it. I didn't need Ryan to know. I needed me to know, because the real turning of the tables wasn't about them. It was about reclaiming myself. By the summer of 2020, life felt different. It's not perfect, not neat like the Instagram posts people pretend their lives are, but real. I'd spent months rebuilding brick by brick the parts of myself that Sarah's betrayal had tried to tear down. I had routines, passions, friendships, and a sense of self that no one could touch. I still remembered the sting, the neon-lit nights, the empty apartment, but those memories no longer controlled me. They existed, yes, but as reminders, not chains. I moved into my new apartment fully by late May. A loft in Fells Point with exposed brick walls, wooden floors, and sunlight that streamed in like a promise. I furnished it with care, filling it with books, records, photographs of friends, and even a few prints from local Baltimore artists. For the first time in years, I felt at home in my own skin. Every object, every corner, every smell of coffee in the morning felt intentional. I had created a space where I could breathe, think, and just exist. Work stabilized, too. On bigger projects, mentored younger colleagues, and finally started feeling like I had a purpose outside the shadow of my heartbreak. Collins noticed. He gave me opportunities, asked me for advice, even trusted me with clients I'd never handled before. And it felt good not just because of professional validation, but because I could see the tangible results of my efforts, the steady progress of my own life. I started dating again, cautiously, carefully. It wasn't easy. Every first date carried ghosts of Sarah. It's moments where I caught myself bracing for betrayal or comparing someone new to her. But over time, those comparisons faded. I realized that being hurt didn't have to define my future relationships. Love, I learned, wasn't a trap. Trust wasn't naive. Healing made space for new possibilities. One night in June, I went to Power Plant Live Not to find her. Not to watch, not to relive, but to meet friends for dinner. The city smelled like summer, fried food and warm asphalt, the neon lights flickering faintly from inside the bars. I passed Mosaic, the club where I'd first seen Sarah with Ryan. I paused for a moment. Memories flashing, the laughter, the hand on her waist, the betrayal, but instead of rage or heartbreak I felt nothing, just a quiet sense of closure. The ghosts didn't chase me anymore. I realized then that resolution isn't about revenge or retribution. It's about reclaiming your narrative, standing in your own power, and refusing to let someone else's choices dictate your self-worth. I didn't need Sarah to feel regret. I didn't need Ryan to know the chaos they'd caused. What mattered was me, my growth, my resilience, my ability to move forward. In the months that followed, I leaned into life, travel, friends, work, even new love. I signed up for a photography class, capturing the gritty beauty of Baltimore, the peeling paint on row houses, the early morning fog over the inner harbor, the neon glow reflecting off wet asphalt after a summer rain. I discovered that I could channel pain into something tangible and meaningful. Every shot felt like reclaiming a piece of myself that I'd thought was lost forever. The lessons lingered. Trust cautiously, but don't let fear dictate your life. Love fully, but don't lose yourself in someone else's orbit. Pain is temporary. Resilience is permanent, and betrayal, while unforgettable, doesn't define you. And every now and then, when the city lights flicker just right, or I catch a scent that reminds me of her vanilla perfume, I allow myself a quiet smile, not a bitter one, but a reflective one, because I survived. I grew. I reclaimed my life. And I know, deep down, that I can face anything the world throws at me. That night under the neon lights will always be a part of my story. But it isn't the whole story. My story is longer, deeper, and stronger than that moment of betrayal. And now, finally, I feel like I'm the one writing it. Because in the end, it wasn't about her. It was about me finding my way back to myself. And in that I found something unshakable, unbreakable, and entirely mine.